job is costing you more than you think. A different way to look at what work is really taking from you. Let me ask you a question you probably never sat with before. How much does your job cost you? Not how much do you make, or I'm not even talking about taxes. How much does it cost you in real dollar figures? Most people can tell you their salary, even down to the dollar. But ask them what they spend just to show up and then keep that job, and very few could answer. Most of us have never done the math. This isn't a hard mystery. There is a calculable amount. It's based on the commute time, the method, the wardrobe you maintain, the lunches you buy because you're too exhausted to cook, the things you spend money on emotionally just to survive the week. When you actually run the numbers, your salary looks very different than the one on your W-2. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. I love reading, and the foundation of this idea comes from a book called Your Money or Your Life by Vicki Robin. It's been around since the 90s and updated more recently. And it's a pivotal book written about the relationship between work, money, and time. Vicki Robin introduces the concept of calculating your real hourly wage, not the number on your paycheck, but what you actually net out per hour after accounting for everything your job demands of you. What I want to do today is take that idea, make it more specific to where you are today, and connect it to a decision a lot of men I work with are trying to make. You have to ask yourself, is what I'm doing actually worth it? And if not, what do I do about it? That's what this video is for. Here's the story most of us tell ourselves. I make $120,000 a year or $200,000 a year. And that number feels real. It's the number you give when you have to fill it in a box. It's the number that makes you feel like you're doing okay, but it's not the real number. It's hard to face some truths. We think it's easier just not to think about it. But when you can't justify the cost of something, the cost starts to crush you. A lot of men I coach aren't struggling because they're lazy or unmotivated. I see that they're struggling because they've never honestly looked at what their job is taking compared to what it's giving. There's often this little voice that tells us we just need to man up and accept that life is suffering and work should be hard. We start to believe that's how everybody feels. And that imbalance is felt, but usually never named. It becomes one of the deepest sources of drift in a man's professional life. Let's walk through this together. I would encourage you to pull out a sheet of paper to get at least the first idea. I want you to think about 5 categories, not as abstract ideas, but as the actual line items with real dollar numbers attached. Category 1, time. We will start with time because time is the most precious resource and the currency most people forget to count. Note that there is no job that won't cost you time. It's the universal required element to earning a living. We need to break down everything not tied to the wage. How long is your actual workday? Not the hours you're paid for, the hours you give. Add the commute, both ways, every day. Also, add the time you spend getting ready for work. Then, add the decompression time after work. This could be the 45 minutes from where you get home and you're not really present yet, because you're still mentally at work. Oliver Burkeman wrote the book 4,000 Weeks on the concept that the average human life is about 4,000 weeks long. When you start counting in weeks and hours, not years and salaries, the math changes fast. How many of your waking hours does your job actually consume? It's important to track the unpaid hours. Divide your annual salary by that number. This is the way to understand your real hourly wage. I know you will likely want to disagree with it. For most people, it's significantly lower than they assumed. Category 2, wardrobe and presentation. What do you spend each year on clothing for work? Include all of the suits, even dry cleaning, the shoes you would never wear on your own time, the expensive haircuts at the frequency your job prefers. Some of this you would do anyway, but be honest about what's specifically spent for you to keep the appearances for your job. A lot of men in corporate or consulting roles spend $2,000, even $5,000, or even more a year maintaining a professional appearance they're expected to keep. Sometimes these expectations aren't written in contract, but they're clearly expected in the work culture if you want to get the best projects. Let's be clear, this is not a benefit, that's a cost. Category 3, food and energy recovery. How much do you spend on food because of your job? We all need to eat to live, that's a given. But let's look at what's the result of your job. Cheap lunches out because you didn't have time to bring something. Coffee to function in the morning. Dinners you ordered because you got home so late that you had nothing left to give. We work to live, and I'm not trying to guilt you about these decisions. This isn't about being frugal. It's about being honest. These expenses exist because of the job, and it's the impact on your time and life. This is an important calculation in your job's cost. Category 4, stress spending. This category will require the most honesty, and it's the hardest to look at because we justify it the most to ourselves. It's how it happens. What do you spend money on specifically to cope with, recover from, or compensate for the stress of your job? These are the expenses you take on and you tell yourself, I have to do it to cope with this heavy week, this month, or this season. It could look like weekends away because you desperately need to feel like a person again. Possibly the whole category of alcohol, Amazon purchases made right before bed, subscriptions you don't use but you signed up for when you were burned out. T. Harper Eker talks about this in The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. He says, your spending patterns are a mirror to your inner world. Some of it is envy, some of it is greed. Most of this spending doesn't leave you as satisfied as you wish it would. There's usually a need for the next fix. Even if we don't say it out loud, a lot of stress spending is just the cost of tolerating something you haven't decided to change yet. Category 5, health costs. This category is one that may feel unavoidable, but writing it down is part of the perspective we need to understand the cost of this job. Chronic stress has an expensive price tag. Doctor visits tied to stress-related symptoms, all the unprescribed medication, the new glasses because of the screens you have to stare at all day, physical and cognitive therapy, the expensive gym you joined because your doctor said you need to move more. And beyond the financial costs, there's the compounding tax of operating below your physical capacity year after year. All of this has long-term costs to your output, your relationships, your presence that doesn't show up on a spreadsheet, but is absolutely real. If you started this calculation, here's how to actually calculate this. You can do it on an annual basis or do the math for a month and then multiply it by 12. Step 1. Take your gross annual salary, the number before anything is adjusted. Step 2. Subtract the total annual cost of everything we just walked through. Include the wardrobe, commute, food, stress spending, and health costs. Step 3. Calculate your total annual job-related hours. Paid hours plus commute plus getting ready plus decompression time. Step 4. Divide your net income after your costs by your total hours. That's your real hourly wage. Now do one more calculation. How many years do you plan to stay in this role or this type of work? Multiply the annual cost by that number. That is your approximate lifetime cost of the situation you're in right now. For a lot of men, that number is staggering and they've never seen it before. It could be that you thought you were making $75 an hour, but actually it's $29. This is not an attack on your job. I want to be clear about something. This is not an argument to convince you to quit your job today. Some people run this math and then realize their job is worth it. The real hourly wage is solid. The costs are manageable. The trade-off is honest. That's a real win. And if that's you, you should feel good to know that with clarity. But a lot of people run this math and realize they've been tolerating something they've never fully priced. They've been staying not because it makes sense, but because they haven't looked closely enough to justify leaving. There's a principle from Ignatian discernment I think about often. The idea is that you cannot make a good, clear decision in a state of desolation or confusion. You need data before you can choose well. This exercise is not about quitting your job. It's about ending the confusion that keeps you from choosing clearly. I built a free worksheet for this. It walks you through every category we talked about today. And if what they tell you is that it's time to start building something alongside your job, something that eventually replaces the income without requiring the same costs. That is something I help people do. Tech professionals and consultants, people already making good money who want to turn what they know into their first real income stream in 90 days without quitting yet. The link for that is also in the description. It should take about 3 minutes to fill out the application. If it looks like a fit, we'll get on a call, run the math, make a decision, and move forward. My name is Chris Almanza, career and purpose coach and speaker. If this helped you, like and subscribe. I talk about work, meaning, and how to decide. I wish you peace and success. God bless you.